All right. Carnivore Soldier coming at you from Austin, Texas. You made it. It's hump day. Another week gone, another week starting. Hopefully you've done well on your diet. If not, this is a new starting point for you. Let's go ahead and bring in our guest today. Today we've got Chad, the minimalist carnivore. Hey, Chad. And we have Teresa O, PhD coach. She's also carnivore. Okay, guys. We have a back. Oops, I gotta turn my audio off here. Sorry. Okay, guys, welcome. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves real quick? Chad, you can start first.
Yeah, my name's Chad. In Phoenix, Arizona these days, originally from Maui, but lived here quite a while. Been carnivore almost 4 years and did keto for a year before that. Had lost over 100 pounds doing it, and that's the quick of it.
Okay. Teresa?
Hi, I'm Teresa. I'm a coach for Dr. Berry's website. I've been carnivore for almost 18 months and love every minute of it.
That's awesome. And I'm Larry, and I've been carnivore since March 22nd. This is the first diet I've ever been successful on, I guess. And because every other diet I've actually had success initially and always fallen off. And today we're going to be, we got someone from New Zealand coming in. Looks like we have maybe a couple people from New Zealand coming in. Cool. Today we're going to be talking about the why. And I want to kind of dig in a little bit because for me, it was super important. I just want to know what you guys think about the importance of finding your why and why you guys went carnivore initially. So Chad, why don't you start just telling us what was your why that you started eating this weird way for?
Well, I think it comes just for one to be a good dad, a good, family. I mean, you got to be that person in your family that's going to be there for your kids in a strong way. And when you're like this fat, sweaty dad that can't do things properly, in my opinion, that just doesn't work. Also, I was in shape most all of my life extremely well. And when I had gotten out of it, I had known what I was capable of. And the old age, at 60 years old now where I'm at, started getting to me. It's like, this sucks. This just flat out is not fun. And so my why was really, I would say, family and being back to the dad that I need to be to, do things with the family. That's probably the biggest reason. And part of that encompasses everything else. Being in shape, again, for myself is for the family. Does that make sense? They go hand in hand. Everything kind of ties together.
Yeah, it totally does.
That's really my biggest why. And also it's just, it's good to be healthy. It's just flat out doesn't pay to be sick. And, I would go out and do yard work and I would be down for a week when I was sick. And now I can go out and do yard work and then go out the next day and do yard work. That kind of thing in life. It makes life so much better.
So, but you had experience with other diets in the past, right, Chad? And
yeah, I had, like I said, I think I was about 40 when I started gaining the weight, when I started getting these lung issues. And I had tried some things. Like I said, I tried the small plate thing. I tried this blood type thing. I tried the whole going green thing, which again was the worst experience and the worst community. And this is the carnivore community so awesome. Because the second I'm like, man, my gut's just burning like fire and I just can't understand this. You're doing it wrong, and they don't try to help. Everything that could go wrong, they don't say, well, maybe you have, in the carnivore, they might say, hey, were you a heavy veggie eater? You might have oxalate dumping problem. Are you drinking too much of this? Try this. There, it was always, you're the problem. You're doing it wrong. It's not this. So yeah, I had tried some other stuff. And then I just tried doing the low fat thing, of course. And, so I tried for probably 4 good years in different things and nothing really budged. Keto, I always say keto was the door and carnivore opened the door. Keto, I messed up on keto and keto messed up on me because of all the fat bombs and all the alternative foods. I could still have my chicken teriyaki
Yep.
It just happened to be a different kind of rice with some other fake thing, and I could still have teriyaki sauce. I could still have all these other fake foods or alternative foods. I won't call them fake; they're real foods, but alternative foods. And it never taught me to get into the healthy foods and breaking the habit. And again, I don't blame keto because I do think clean keto is really good and healthy. But
Yep.
I blame the really big sites with, and I hate to do that, but with all fat bombs and all these like wonderful treats, and that's what it's about rather than really focusing. And also that long ago, 5 years ago, when I started the keto thing, there wasn't a lot of information out there, I think, with people who actually had time tested it and started figuring it out. So that first year was pretty bad. And then when I got into carnivore, it took a while to get rolling. It took about a month to get rolling, but it was fine. And I did that video on the cheat because I hate the word cheat. To me, you're having a treat. You're sabotaging yourself if you eat off carnivore. Mm-hmm. I had already messed up on keto. And when I started carnivore, I said, the worst I'm going to do is fall back to keto. And I never had to. And it's not like pat myself on the back. I'm great. I had a year of keto to mess up. And not the first 3 months, I didn't have to mess up off keto. Does that make sense? Because there was already all these chocolate fat bombs and all this, chocolate cookie bars you could eat. So I didn't need to mess up. So at least it did give me a good base. And that's why today I even say, if people start out keto for the first 3 months, I think it's a good base because it can warm you up to it. But everybody's different in how hardcore they are.
Yeah, I had done keto several times when I was active duty to get into shape for schools, and it worked. And I knew I'd get results, but I never stayed on because I always fell back to these keto foods that were, I can have artificial sweeteners and I can have this. And my cravings never went away. So I would eat like Quest bars, right? Because they're keto. Yeah. I mean, and net carbs. I was like, and then you had to count all these carbs and these macros, and it fell off every time. But once I went to this, where I just learned, I had to, got rid of all the sweeteners and all the cravings when I got rid of them all, and then just learned to listen to my body. And that was the first time I've ever done that, where I would eat when I was hungry and eat till I was satiated and eat whole foods. So I think that was the big transition for me and I think for me, it was pairing the why, because I always had that why. I was athletic my whole life. And then I was going downhill pretty rapidly from 2017 on to 2019 when I retired. Like my last 2 years in the Army, I couldn't even run because I was injured and the injuries weren't healing up. They were piling up and my weight was coming on and my body didn't respond to exercise. So this was the first time that I married my why, which I always still wanted, to my to a vehicle that actually worked. And that's why this, I think, succeeded. So Teresa, why don't you tell us about your why and your experience with that?
Well, my why was to just never be in pain for another day. And I also wanted some energy. I was on the plant diet. It sucked pretty much the life out of me. So yeah, that was my why, not to be in pain for one more day. And I dove into carnivore head first and I haven't looked back.
So what kind of pain was resolved?
Before I even started carnivore, I started the plant diet to just get rid of some fatigue and maybe lose some weight. Mm-hmm. And that was it. I didn't have very many complaints. So I went on the plant diet and I didn't even think it was possible to deteriorate in 14 months like I did. I had pretty much everything you possibly think of, from just about every digestive issue. I had fibromyalgia. I had the start of rheumatoid arthritis. My hair was thinning. My skin was pale and kind of bluish. I was a mess. And at one point, I remember towards the end of it, I had gotten to the point where I was about to give up. Like, I'm aging. Maybe this is how it's supposed to be. You're just supposed to get old and get on all this medication and feel like crap. And everything's supposed to hurt. And I don't know, I think having that moment kind of woke me up a little bit, because I've never been that kind of person. I've never just given up or resolved to, this is how it's going to be. And then I was like, no, this can't be how it's supposed to be. And it was shortly after that I found Dr. Berry.
Yeah, I had resigned to getting old too, and I thought it was just the way it was, because all my peers were doing it too. I mean, I looked at my friends; I was in better shape than they were, and I was in terrible shape. And I was like, man, at least I don't have diabetes yet or anything, right? So
Right.
I'm like, I can't run anymore, and I can barely, I wake up like a really old man. Now I spring out of bed, it's like I pop out and like ready to go. No coffee, nothing. I'm just boom, I got energy. It's so weird. But like when I started, I was like, wow, I just assumed that was the general decline I had. And that's what I watched my dad do. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to be in the same glide slope he is. And if I'm lucky, I won't get a bad disease and I won't die in too much pain and I'll last a little longer. Right. And if I'm unlucky, I'll die like my mom did at 67 years old, 10 years older than I'm now, from Alzheimer's. And that's what I was kind of worried about. I was like, so my why really was, I didn't want to be a burden to my son. I didn't want to be a burden to my brother and sister with Alzheimer's or anything. And every time I'd forget something, I'd start freaking myself out. Like, oh my gosh, I can't remember that guy's name. Am I getting Alzheimer's? I start playing it in my head and stuff. And I tell you what, now I don't have any worries about that at all with this diet. I can tell you, I feel really on top of everything.
Right.
Okay, we got a question. What is a fat bomb? Well, since Chad brought it up, we'll let him answer this.
It's basically a keto treat that is loaded with fat. There's no percentage, but let's just call it 70 to 80% fat in a nice little treat, often shoved into a silicone mold. So it might be like a bunch of almond flour packed with enough butter to kind of support the almond flour, packed with Lily's chocolate chips. That's a good idea of a fat bomb, I think.
So there's a carnivore version that's actually pretty healthy. There's a couple. There's the Dr. Kilch's ice cream that you can make kind of a fat bomb out of, which I took your lead on that, Chad, and I put them in my silicone mold. So I had portion control when I made that.
Yeah. Did it work?
Yeah, it works great. And then
I think it's a good idea to have the little silicone molds for the ice cream treats.
I have that. Yeah. I can do it for, you can do butter. What do you call them? Butter bombs?
I used to whip butter. Did you ever take butter and brown it?
Yeah.
Here's if you
brown
like
butter bites. That's what it is.
Brown butter, but then put it back in the fridge and then whip it till it's like 3 times the volume.
Oh,
and then put those in silicone molds, and you can even drop them on a steak and they'll melt out, and they're pretty good with that brown butter on a steak.
Cool. We got another question. Let's see. What is 1 or 2 things you did early on that you credit a lot for your success on this diet? For me, it was not counting or measuring anything. Eat fatty meats when hungry until I felt full. That's really good advice. I would say one of the things I didn't do, and I don't recommend people do, and actually, Teresa, you're a coach, so you might have more insight on this, but a lot of people want to start off fasting right away. And I think you got to fix your hunger signals and eat whenever you're hungry at first, and just eat whole fatty foods until you're satiated. And then after you fix your hunger signals, after probably 2 or 3 months, then you can start maybe introducing fasting. But I don't think right away. And actually, it'll just happen naturally. Like, I don't even eat breakfast anymore. It's just a natural progression for me. But I think when you put a construct in of artificial, like, we're going to fast from this hour to this hour, and you're just starting this diet, that's a lot of stuff going on. What do you think, Teresa?
Yeah, especially if you're trying to get off carbs, then fasting, fasting is no bueno, because your body is used to receiving energy every couple of hours. And that's what it's running on. So if you just jump in and you start fasting, you're going to feel like crap. And it's not a good idea. You could pass out. If you can even function, that would really be interesting. I wasn't. I started off saying I was going to fast, and I knew nothing about it, and I didn't last very long. So yeah, I would say eat every time you're hungry, and eat until you're full, and then just go with that. And I naturally went from like 3 to 5 meals down to 2 meals to 1. and you'll do that naturally.
I agree. What do you think, Chad? Any feedback or any other things you did
I
early?
think to top it off too is, like she was saying with the eating, and both you were saying with eating, it's also, you don't have to follow what one other person does. You're going to have to find your own path. I
Right.
think keeping the protein to about that 1 gram per pound body weight ideal is good. And then up the fat or down the fat some, but don't think, oh, this guy's eating a stick of butter, so I've got to eat a stick of butter if it doesn't
Right.
make you feel good. And
Right.
just experiment with yourself, and it's how you feel. And I will say the one other thing, and I say this a lot to people because I'm glad I maybe did keto beforehand, but give yourself grace if you mess up. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like I say, these people make too big of a deal of cheating. It's like you mess up, learn from it, move on.
Well,
You know,
I think
that's
there's a
my other
difference.
thing.
I think there's a difference between cheating and falling off the horse too. Cheating to me
Yeah.
is like planning, and I don't like a planned failure.
Correct.
So
Never
if you fall
plan.
off-
Don't go, hey, Tuesday I'm going to allow myself this. Never try
Yeah.
to do that. I still say it's a bad idea to do anything off the carnivore if you can, but if it does happen, I think one other thing I will say is a hook that kind of is opposite of that. When I started the carnivore, I did way too many of these. Well, it's in carnivore, but it's like pork rinds and sour cream and all this stuff. And these days I'm going to step on toes and just say, well, fine, I'll tell you what, I'll have you a contest. You eat pork rinds and sour cream only for the next month, and I'll only eat ribeyes, and we'll see how we do.
Yeah.
So I think as long as if you've got a problem with food, avoid those. If you're okay with it, very light moderation, only as something after you've eaten, maybe like on that Friday night movie. You know what I mean? Like Teresa was not. I think she knows. You know what I mean? Wouldn't you tell that to people? It has to be in light moderation, and don't go overboard.
Yeah.
I like what Dr. Chafee talks about when he says just make sure dairy is like a condiment, right? So you wouldn't eat a bowl of mustard or ketchup, right? So don't eat a bowl full of cheese. Cheese can be put on meat, right? Just treat it like a condiment, and same with the sour cream. I mean, in moderation. So I whip up some sour cream, put some salt in it, and that's a dip. And dip like pork belly bites in it or something fried. I'll do that's very rarely. Then I don't do it much at all anymore. When I was starting, I was looking for different snacks. I did bacon. I did a lot of bacon. I did a pound of bacon a day. I would fry up, and that was my go-to in the fridge. And hard-boiled eggs. That's the other thing. You can prepare for this and anticipate you're going to snack a lot when you start or when you're early in it, and make a lot of snacks that are good for you and have them ready. So they're at your hand, at your reach right when you need them. Let's see.
And I will say this. I'm going to throw this in here.
Yeah.
Try to get down to lion diet just to see how it does for you. At some point. You don't have to do it anytime soon. I'm saying like 9 months or a year in, just try it as a sense of elimination. And then when you bring these other little things back in, then you can see if it affects you. Because I do think it's worth just testing every single thing that you eat. Testing
100%.
thoroughly, so you know.
I did it 100 days. At 100 days, I hit a plateau. And I stayed the same weight. And then I wasn't just trying to lose weight, but I felt like I was just stalled. But I was still eating cheese and stuff. So I went lion. I'm like, I'm just going to go lion. And in the first 3 weeks, I lost 13 pounds again. And my body just like kicked back into overdrive. And then, then I started re-adding things in. I said, hey, I'm going to try coffee again and see what coffee does. But I added it and realized I didn't like it really. It's like, kind of bitter. I just don't really miss it. And then I added a couple seasonings in. Like I made a chili, an all meat chili, but I added some chili powder and things just to try it. And it kind of burned my stomach a little bit. It wasn't as great as I remembered it. So I really still go back to ground beef, butter, and steaks. I love that. I mean, that's my version of lion.
I do cheese only for this no gallbladder situation, and only aged Parmesan seems to be working. Otherwise, I would be 100% lion. So I basically have no seasonings, no nothing for the last probably over 2 years. I have pork maybe every 3 months. and that's it. So I'm pretty strict, but I'm also really relaxed. Like we were talking earlier before, like Teresa, when she was the vegan thing, she doesn't care what people eat. You don't care what people eat.
Right.
I don't care what people eat. That's up to you. But so when I'm lax with people, I'm also very strict with myself because I like training. Not that I'm an Olympic athlete, but I like training for the Olympics. I want to be that gold medal podium dude with the 10 things around my neck. And I might as well do everything I can to be, if I'm going to do it, might as well do it to the best of your ability.
Yeah. I mean, and like you say, I don't care what people eat, but I will tell them what best practices are. And like, I'll say, hey, listen, you can eat honey. It's probably not a good idea. And best practice is not to do it because it's got carbohydrates. Right. But I'm not going to say don't, or eat, or artificial sweeteners even, and I'll usually tell them just like, okay, artificial sweeteners, yep, you can eat it. It probably won't affect your weight right away, but just realize it does make an insulin reaction. It does drive cravings. So that's on you. That's N=1. You're different than me, right? So, and some people do it. So, Teresa, have you ever gone lion diet, or you ever gone that far extreme in your elimination?
Yeah, I went lion diet for 5 months, and for the most part, I'm just steak and salt. Occasionally, I have bacon. It's not very often, and sometimes egg yolks. So I guess you could say I'm triple B and E, but most of the time I'm just lion.
And I'm lion too, but I actually add butter in, and then occasionally I'll have eggs. Still, I'll if I have my son for the weekend, I'll make him breakfast, and I'll eat bacon and eggs with him every now and then. That's like a social thing. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
like
when I went lion, I was sensitive to even butter, so I couldn't have butter.
Okay.
Till I was about 7 months in.
I also don't do butter anymore.
Oh, is that right?
Maybe a little bit once in a while on something, but yeah, I pretty much, because I'm doing the cheese thing for the no gallbladder for now until I find a better solution, I figured that's enough dairy. I don't want dairy. So I just decided to cut it out, and I don't miss it. That's the interesting thing. I just don't miss it.
I would have doubted you unless I had been as far as I am in my carnivore, because now I don't miss so many things that I can totally see not missing butter. Even though I like it now, I can see cutting it out and eventually like, no big deal. And it's like all the money you save buying all this stuff, right? Too. It's like, I when I grocery shop, it is definitely minimalist. When I'm in and out, always in the 15 or fewer items. The only the biggest time, the time I have the most food is like if I'm going to get dog food, because I make my dog's 130 pounds and I make him chicken. So I buy 60 pounds of quarters and I grind them up and freeze them in pound. I feed them 2 pounds a day. So that's like the biggest shopping cart I ever have when I do that. It's still only like 6 items.
That's got to be a fun one to check out.
Yeah, 6 10-pound bags.
That's when you got to have like a thing of toilet paper. Then like after they do all the chicken, you go, you think this will be enough for that much food? And watch the reaction.
I know people always make comments like, "Oh, you having a big barbecue?" Like even when I'm getting my steaks, like, no, this is just me. I'm eating this. This is the way I live. It's funny. Let's see. All right, we got.
I was going to say one quick thing that William and they were talking about the Lewis and Clark on that video. Did this video on Lewis and Clark, and they talked about fatty meat in their Lewis and Clark journals, because John Ordway is a cousin of mine who was actually one of the guys on the expedition. So I remember reading the journals and knowing this, and they talk so much about fatty meat. And you think about the importance of fatty meat in the Lewis and Clark expedition, that they actually journaled it like hundreds of times. And when they would shoot buffalo, which they thought were going to be fatty and they weren't, they would only take the marrow bone and the tongue, and that's it. So I think too, like, we're on the right path with what we're doing. And, and just because that was brought up, it's true. It's a really interesting thing when you look at history.
Yeah. If you look at the Arctic explorers, so I was in an Arctic unit. I've been to the North Pole. I think there's a picture back here. Yeah, right. That one there, that's the North Pole. That's 1987 on the submarine. We broke through the ice and did but we used to read about the Arctic expedition. Those guys ate pemmican, the lard, or not lard. It was the beef tallow and beef chips, and that's all they had with them, and they carried that with them, and it got them through the whole thing. But yeah, because you burn tons of calories in the cold, tons. I mean, 4,000-6,000 calories a day when you're humping gear in the cold, trying to keep your body warm. And so yeah, I think, and actually, I think the British soldiers during the War of 1812 actually. They ate pemmican too, the Indian food, which is basically the carnivore bar, right? It's what they, and so if you ever want to try to make those, you can either buy them from Carnivore Bar, which I have a thing on my website for it, or you can actually, there's recipes online. Dr. Chafee said he's tried a couple and they work pretty well, and they're pretty cheap to make on your own. So, okay, we have a question. Been Lion Diet for 10 months for healing with amazing results. Last few months, a 1.5 pound New York strip around 1 p.m. and a 1.5 pound ribeye around 6 p.m. Amazing results. Any need for supplements? Well, you want to start with that one, Teresa?
Sure. As far as most of your nutrients are coming from the meat, I would add a drop of iodine, only because it's essential for every cell in your body, and it's really hard to get from the soil. Even if you're eating grass-fed, just there's not enough for the cows to ingest. I would take that one drop and keep your salt up. That's it.
And what about you, Chad? Anything to chime in on that?
I'd say ditto that. I had the Lugol stuff, and I've tried it and not, but I've been on this so long, I think I'm kind of balanced out. The only way you're going to know if you're really deficient is to get a complete blood panel and then know if you're deficient. And remember that that's based on this other idiot diet that exists, the SAD diet. Yeah. So those levels of what you need, like vitamin C, aren't really, when the receptors are the same as sugar, so you need more in this other diet. You got to think about that. I took supplements the first year because I was hedging my bets, and then I quit. And then I've never really had any in the last 3 years, and I'm fine. But I think you just have to know if you're feeling something all the time, what could that be? Find the symptoms and see if it might be something. And organ meats are a good way to up your intake of something without taking supplements. Get some mixed organ burgers or something. I wouldn't go eating like 3 pounds of liver or anything, but, just in proportion of what the animals give, think about those low percentages, get some ground up in burgers, and maybe have those once a week. That's my thought if you're going to do something, but that's it.
I do the iodine, and I probably do it not every day, but I do it 2 or 3 times a week, and I put 2 drops in. And here's a little pro tip. If you drink coffee, you can put it in coffee and not taste it. If you don't drink coffee, you can put it in any sparkling water and you won't taste it at all. So it tastes nasty in regular water, to me anyway. So just get yourself a sparkling water, a Topo Chico, and drop a couple drops in there, and you're good to go. And then you're getting mineral water too, which is great, because then you're getting some benefits of minerals. If you're in Texas, you can drink 1877, which is Texas mineral water, which is what I prefer, because I'm from Texas. So and we have really good spring water here. So yeah, I do that. And then I did have a scratchy throat. My son got sick and he got over it in a day, but I had a scratchy throat. So I took some extra vitamin D just because it can't hurt. And, so I have some stuff on hand that I had left over. Actually, I have a cabinet full of junk I don't even take. Talk about saving money, right? Let's talk about supplements. I used to take all kinds of, and allergy pills. Oh my gosh, I had an allergy pill every day, and still I would wake up and had a routine of blowing my nose and flowing in the morning. It's terrible. And then now I have probably a lifetime supply of allergy pills in my cabinet, because I take maybe 1 or 2 a month. And I got them from Costco. So those giant bottles of hundreds and hundreds of pills, and they're really effective. I just don't need them.
I have a lot of the nasal crom, the spray.
Yeah, I don't even
was
use
left
that stuff
over.
anymore. Whatever that stuff was, I used to shoot up my nose. It's crazy
Yeah.
all the stuff they had us doing. But growing up, so I know, Teresa, you're very young, but Chad and I here are old. So we grew up as kids before the food pyramid, where we had the square meal, and it was much more whole food based. There was some seed oils, there was some sugar, but I didn't eat out a lot. I'm sure, Chad, you didn't go out to McDonald's every day or anything, right?
No.
And so when I grew up, I never knew kids to have allergies, parents to have allergies. This stuff just didn't happen. Like all these conditions I'd never heard of that everyone has now. GERD and what do you got? All these digestive things they have. It's crazy. All the stuff, all the autoimmune system diseases. I never heard of this stuff, and I don't think it's because they didn't know they existed, or I think they just weren't as common until we dove into this food pyramid and everything was grain and manufactured foods. So I really think that we've seen an explosion in all this stuff, and that's why we have cabinets full of junk. I didn't grow up like that.
Speaking of the cabinets, I'm going to throw this in here. This cabinet's full of junk. My daughter's 19 now. When she was in preschool, we ended up homeschooling. We did preschool, and this is just our own reasons. Wasn't medical, wasn't anything. But for 1 year, she was in a school, in a preschool, and I remember going to pick her up one time and going to the office, and there was a cabinet open, and it was probably 6 shelves of medicine. I mean, it was like 3.5 feet wide and packed full. And I was like, what is all that stuff for? And she's like, oh, that's all the kids. And then she pointed over to the side and she goes, that's what the window, they come up and we have this whole sheet so they can come up and get all their medications. I go, are you serious? This is like a grade school. And I mean, it looked like a pharmacia, it was just this insane, huge filled thing. And even then it shocked me. And that was, 13 years ago, whatever, when she would have been in there at about 6 or 7. And I was just like, going back to our school, nobody ever had that. I did have allergies back then because they were hay fever type allergies, but nobody ever had all these like depression meds and all these things for kids and bipolar meds. And
yeah,
it's
ADD,
just insanity.
ADHD. Yeah, it was crazy. It is kind of insanity. I think, it's what happens when the pharmaceutical companies get a foothold in the education system and they can push their stuff through teachers, because doctors weren't enough. So they had to expand it a little bit. I think their market.
Get them hooked while they're young in school.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's kind of sad. And I just made a post on my page about, cause I'm big into, veteran suicide and first responder suicide. It's kind of the mission behind my channel, Mission Carnivore, right? And one of the things I've been reading about in the NIH, they've had these studies since the early 90s showing that low cholesterol leads to violent behavior, a lot of mental illnesses, and also people that commit suicide violently usually have a much lower cholesterol level than people that don't. So it's kind of like pointing to, hey, maybe we shouldn't have maybe we shouldn't eat oatmeal to lower our cholesterol. maybe we shouldn't eat Cheerios to lower our cholesterol, right? Because if we're trying to get our cholesterol down and then that's basically impairing our mind, it might be driving a lot of these issues, these mental illnesses, at a baseline. And I think it's worth looking into. I think, those studies they merit some examination and discussion. So, hey, we got former fat girl on. Cool.
Hey, Nicole.
What's up,
That in
Nicole?
there really quick. And obviously Keto Cheeto. I recognize a lot of.
Yep, Keto Cheeto here. Got another question. What are your suggestions on the simplest and best way to eat carnivore when steak every day is not affordable? Well, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah. Okay. So go ahead, Teresa. You can lead on that one. Burger.
Hamburger. Yeah.
What do you say, Chad?
Yeah, we get it sometimes at $2.79 or whatever, even cheaper on sale. The other thing is, that's probably why I eat chuck. I eat a ton of chuck steak when it's on sale at Sam's Club first thing in the morning, and it's like 25% off. So I get it for like $4 and something cents a pound. $4.40 I think it is, or $4.60 right now a pound. But I'll still have ribeye. And my way of doing it is if I buy whatever amount of chuck and then some ribeye is on sale, that price at $4.40 goes up to like $5 a pound average. And I know it's kind of justification, but if I keep my budget below $6 a pound for all the food I eat, I can totally have ribeye and other good cuts and still eat chuck. And I love chuck anyway, just as much as I would still eat it if I was insanely wealthy anyway.
And you can do pot roasts too, and pot roasts are really inexpensive.
Yeah, and that's what I call the chuck steak. It's just how you cut it, like the thin cut. And obviously, there's a few other things. I'm sure Larry will hit on what he knows.
Yeah, so on my channel, I'm going to do a video, but I actually have a post under the community post where you post things like pictures and stuff. And I posted not a dietary plan, but basically an example of how you can buy BBB&E, which is bacon, beef, butter, and eggs, and eat a complete diet for a month for under $175 a month. And that's just shopping at Walmart. And the reason I picked Walmart is not because I'm a Walmart advocate or anything. I shop there fine, but it's just because it's everywhere in America. So I figured that was probably the easiest. And I know there's a lot of people on fixed incomes out there that need to figure out how to do this inexpensively. And then I was on with semi-retired Bob. I don't know if you guys know him, but he actually does his BBBE for under $130 a month. So I'm going to invite him to do that video with me, and we're going to go over. I'm going to basically go into Walmart and show all the stuff. And basically you're buying your 10-pound tubes of burger, 80-20 burger, and you're breaking it up in 1 pound increments and putting it in 1 pound Ziploc bags and roller pinning them flat and stacking them in the freezer. And that's what you do. And then you have basically a pound of burger every day. You have like 4 to 6 eggs a day. You have a couple strips of bacon every day, and you have butter. And that will get you. And then you have, if you want to spend up to $200 a month, you can actually add some steaks in there too. So that's really affordable for a person, I think.
And even for the BBB thing, like I can't do eggs because I'm allergic to the whites.
Right.
I keep trying to eat eggs, but it just never works. But I'm a sucker, so I keep trying. But you can always just make it just some, just a little bit of bacon just to help the flavor, or just all ground beef and all. You don't have to make it that combo either. It's just each one of those happen to be a great proportion. Because I think, I've had that question sometimes. People like, well, I don't really like, eggs. It's like, well, then don't include the eggs.
Yeah. So I think that's those are good options. And then you can always make the eggs in different ways too, like little quiches. You can make little quiches with bacon or ham or even burger in it. I mean, you don't have to always eat eggs and bacon every day, but actually I could eat eggs and bacon every day. I really could. I did in the military. I mean, that's just the way it was. So it's not that hard. It's easier when someone else is cooking for you. Okay, got another question here. Did you have anything resolved that was completely unexpected? For me, it was complete resolution of carpal tunnel pain in both hands, lifting now, and can't even tell I ever had an issue. All right. Chad, you want to do that one?
I would say my allergies, because we were talking before we went on air, like my allergies were bad, like anaphylactic shock bad. They're 98% gone. You still see me do this with my nose. I still have nose polyps and stuff I have to get taken care of one day. But yeah, for me, it's just so many things. My eyesight has gotten way better. My allergies, no more dandruff. Weird things like my eye floaters are totally 100% gone. My tinnitus is pretty much, it does come back once in a while, but I just do this little finger tap trick on the back of my head and immediately goes away where it was debilitating. I've never had a migraine headache since carnivore. I mean, there's, for me, so many things. And you guys can relate to this and other people can even share it. It's not like you notice when it happens. And I do remember when the first time I was with Teresa, she said something that still sticks with me and I still use this. Thank you for giving it to me. But she's like, I just looked out the window one day and just kind of smiled. It's this, it just all of a sudden you're like, wow, I don't have hiccups anymore. I never really it's just these weird things that all of a sudden you realize. So I will say, yeah, an insane amount of things have healed I never saw coming, and I never knew when they did. It just all of a sudden I realized, wow, I don't have that. You kind of look around and you think that's gone.
Teresa, you want to add to that? What you had?
Yeah, sure. I mean, just like Chad, my floaters are gone. I see better in the daytime. The Arizona sun, it doesn't cause much of a glare for me, so I don't squint. I don't wear sunglasses anymore. I see better at night. I mean, I could always see at night while driving. I mean, when you're in a like completely dark room, it almost looks like there's a full moon out now, so I can make out shapes and stuff where it would be completely black for me on the SAD or the plant diet. I had an age spot on my hand that just peeled right off. I didn't expect that.
Peeled? Like you peeled it off?
Yeah, I had an age spot on this hand about the size of a pencil eraser. It was really dark brown and very noticeable. And one day I just noticed the edge of it curled up a little bit. So I picked at it, peeled right off. Didn't even hurt. Nothing underneath.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I would have thought it would have like absorbed or, you know what I mean? Or just kind of gone away. That is a trip.
Yeah, it just peeled right off. I was just, oh, would you look at that? Okay. But I just did a video about it
this whole time.
Yeah.
Cool. I think for me it is the mental thing, because I've always been an optimist and I always thought I had pretty good mental health. I didn't think I was, I was always, pretty positive, but I think after all the other benefits that came on, my mental health just, if I lost all my other benefits, I think my mental health is the one I want to keep the most, because it's completely changed my outlook on life. Like I said, I was kind of resigned to just going down this slope, and I wasn't really planning things ahead of my life anymore. I was just more like along for the ride, right? The rest of my life. And now I'm like planning things. Like, I want to go do stuff. I want to go travel. I want to see things. I want to get up and I don't watch TV anymore, except for hockey games, every now and then, but I don't really waste time like that anymore. I want to go do stuff. And the mental health change was one I didn't expect. I mean, I heard people talk about it, but until you experience it, you really can't convey that really well. So
I'm going to throw in one thing too. I don't know if you guys have noticed this. When you were talking about the sunshine, I'm not going to get photo gray lenses next time. I don't want them, the darkening type. I notice what's weird now too, and I mentioned this in the video, and I don't know what the term is, but like when you get up in the morning and you flick on the lights, you're not like just this, it's like the light sensitivity is way better. Like I can walk into a pitch black room and I'm not 100% blind. And when I get up in the morning, because I get up like 5:30, so an hour before sunrise, and if I flick on the light, I just kind of, it's a little bit bright, and but it's not this blinding. And like you were saying, when I go outside and cook, because I cook all my meals outside, I can go out even in the summer and I'm not like, coming out. Did you guys notice that with the sensitivity, like in the morning lights hitting them on, that you don't have that?
Yeah, I don't wear my sunglasses when I walk my dog until I try to go. I'm doing the grounding thing. So I walk barefoot all the time. When I was in California growing up as a kid, I was barefoot all the time. I rarely wore shoes, unless I had to. In winter, I wore shoes, right? In the summer, I just be barefoot. And, so I've took to this grounding thing. So I take my dog out and I walk him barefoot around the neighborhood. People probably think I'm weird, and I don't wear sunglasses, and I love to watch the sunrise when I do it. That's my thing, man.
I tried to go barefoot when I first moved here. Coming from the islands, everybody's barefoot or your cheap rubber slippers. You guys call them flip-flops. But it's like Arizona, not a good idea. I picked so many thorns and so many things. And also in the summer, the pavement, when it's like 115 out, and you step on the pavement and part of it's stuck to your foot because it's kind of melted, it's like,
that's a little too
I love being barefoot.
That's why I do the morning, because in the afternoon I've gone and checked my mail barefoot, or I jump out of the Jeep like, oh, that was a little hot. It's like 106 outside. I'm like, okay, that's 130 down there, 140. That's a little hot.
I own Earth Runners. They're from Earth. You can search Earth Runners and it'll take you right to the site. They're essentially grounding shoes, but you have the benefits of walking barefoot. and it's all I wear. I've worn them religiously for 4 years because, like you, I love being barefoot, but in Arizona, you just can't do it. Ground's too hot and there's too many cactus spikes everywhere. So it basically has copper woven into the laces and the copper down at the bottom. So you're always grounded as long as you're on the right material.
So you don't wear socks? You just go
No.
barefoot in your shoe? Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
but there is socks for winter.
Copper socks.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I will say that about footwear. Like I don't wear those, but I only wear Ultra, ALTRA. Like a lot of through hikers wear Ultra shoes. They're like 0, so your heel's the same as your foot, and they're like the really wide toe box shoes because shoes are a horrible contraption. They're a gnarly. Give me my slippers or give me ultra wide shoes, and I'm wearing my slippers. You know, as we sit, I still sit here.
I have.
That's the one thing, Teresa. I didn't give. I now actually, unfortunately, wear slippers in the house. You know,
in the house,
that would have been
I'm barefoot.
Yeah, I just because the scorpion's here because I've had 2 scorpion stings.
Oh, yeah.
So now I wear them because I've had a scorpion before come up. One time when I was at the desk, it came up underneath my foot and got me. So now I'm paranoid.
That's crazy.
We only get scorpions when there's construction going on and they're moving. They're migrating away from the construction. So once you're in a neighborhood that's established, it's really rare to get a scorpion in Texas. Unless you're out in the country.
Our backyard is a nature preserve, a pretty big one.
Oh, yeah. So you got snakes and scorpions, huh?
Yeah, we got snakes, scorpions, and like just the other day I posted a little thing on another recent vid, like a family of bobcat came through our yard, like cut through our yard and stuff. So we have a lot of pretty cool critters.
We have coyotes. You hear them out there, a troop of them going every now and then. All right, former Fat Girl has a question for the panel. If you could eat one carnivore meal the rest of your life that you would have to cook, what would it be?
Ribeye.
Yeah. And how would you cook it? How would you cook it? If you had to cook it, how would you? Different ways or?
No, just one way. Cast iron pan, raw on the inside.
Okay. How about you, Chad?
I'd say that, but I use carbon steel because I like carbon steel pans, like de Bouillé pans the most, or on the grill, either the two. But if it had to be one, I'd probably pick a pan because I like the harder sear crust of pan searing. And I'm also a blue. I don't mind steaks like black and blue, if you're familiar with that term, where they're like, you know, raw inside, but they're really well done on the outside.
I like the nice little crust.
Oh, yeah. I love the ribeyes. And I've been doing the frozen ribeyes in the air fryer because it gets the crust outside by the time it gets medium rare inside. But my favorite way to do it is a smoked reverse sear. And I learned it from there's a barbecue place called Cooper's in Llano, Texas. And I was talking, I ordered one. It was $70. It was totally worth it just to try it. And then I talked to the pitmaster on how to do it. So you're familiar with reverse sears. You put it in the oven and get the temperature up to like 200 or whatever till the internal temperature gets up to about 100. And then you sear it on the outside, right? So it's the whole steak is the same temperature and the same wellness throughout, right? Well, you just smoke it to that temperature. So you smoke it at 225 in the smoker, which every Texan has if they're a real Texan. And then once you pull it out when it's about 100 degrees internal temperature, and you have that cast iron pan hot, and you just sear it on both sides and on the ends. And it is the most amazing smoked ribeye taste you ever had. It's almost like a sous vide. It's great.
I was going to say, do you ever sous vide? Because I do a lot of sous vide cooking. I was going to say sous vide, but if it's something I have to do, I don't want to do sous vide every day for the rest of my life. That's why I said no. I made it like what I
wouldn't smoke every day either. But the difference between the sous vide, I think, is this. The smoker dries out the moisture from the edge.
Well, that's the one thing. If you've seen any of my videos, you know I've mentioned this. I'm a huge dry brine person. I tell everybody to learn to dry brine their meats and get used to doing them like up to 2 days, because dry brining makes all the difference. And that's just salting the meat and then putting it on a rack, like a cooling rack, and then put that on a cooling sheet or some, a sheet pan so it doesn't drip. Put it back in your fridge for a day or two. If it's a good thick ribeye, do it for 1 day, then one time do it for 2 days and see what you like. You get a superior crust and flavor, and it also it's just awesome. That's awesome.
So you don't have to do that with the smoked one because it'll dry it out on the outside when it heats.
Yeah.
It's similar
I
to
would say try it though. Try it
to an
and see if
yeah,
it's
yeah.
even better. You know,
It's
because it
similar.
might
It's
have
similar.
smoke even better because it's already dry, so it might even absorb more.
And you can do the reverse sear with an oven. You don't have to have a smoker. Smokers are just superior, I think, because you get that great. And then you can try different woods. Like I'll do apple wood, and I'll do mesquite, and just get a little different flavor. It's pretty cool.
You call it cave. I'm not, mesquite is cave, but I'm used to cave. I love the flavor of mesquite, even though it's hard like flavor.
Yeah.
I love it.
Are you guys listen? Every year there's the Keto Con, which they've changed the name this year to Hack Your Health because a lot of ketos have gone carnivore or ketovore now. So it's not called Keto Con anymore. It's here in Austin. Are you guys planning on going to Austin for Keto Con this year?
I went last year. I'm not sure if I'm going to go again.
Okay.
Dr. Berry needs me to, I'll go.
Yeah, I do have a $50 discount code if you guys do want to get tickets. And I think their tickets are like for 3 days is $200, so it's $150 right now for 3 days. It's not bad.
I know with my daughter in college and everything, we're just like homebound for the next.
Got it. Cool. Okay, we got another question. Where does the sugar go that's used for most bacon? It's listed ingredients, but carbs are 0. Washed off with the brining?
I think it's burned off in the curing.
Yeah, I think most of sugar is. And
I've
also
heard two different things. I've also heard though too, it's about what they call a serving size, and if it's under a certain, like if it's 3/4, they don't have to call it 1. If you if they said a serving size is 6 pieces, you might have 3 grams of carbs. I've heard that, but I don't know if it's true. Again, I'm just saying what I've heard from other people, but I've also heard it's like sugar alcohols, like you were saying with the brining, Teresa, like some of it does convert and kind of go away. So I don't know what it is.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about labels, let's get real honest. Companies can be off by 20 to 30% as far as their macros and calories and everything else goes. So, I mean, why should we trust anything really?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why you really have to go Whole Foods whenever you can. Now, bacon, for me, it was a bridge that got me to where I'm at now. So I was happy to eat bacon because it's the best bad food you can eat. One of the best bad foods you can eat when you're starting out, I think. If it's so I tell people like, man, if you're going on a trip or something, get bag bacon, bring it with you. That whatever gets you from point A to point B to point C, that's what you got to do. And just like Chad says, and I'm sure Teresa's experience too, after a while, you don't miss it. When you start, actually, I don't even remember, I can't remember the exact date I stopped making bacon, but it just happened. Or I was just not interested in making it. It didn't sound good to me, but beef still sounded good to me. So that's just going to happen. It's a progression. Chuck eye steaks, very good and cheap, a lot like ribeye. Yeah, chuck eye is the bottom cut of a ribeye, I think. So part of the chuck eye steak a lot of times is.
It says it goes forward where the ribeye ends and the chuck starts. It just continues. You can get out of a whole loin, you can get about 2 to 3 good chuck eye steaks out of that as it goes forward in between the muscles. So when I buy chuck roast or the chuck steaks, which are just the chuck roast cut thinner, I look for that other muscle and then I tend to buy those and I kind of still cook the whole thing, but I eat those as they're coming off the grill. I just kind of nibble on them and make them disappear. So I do eat them, but I don't buy them specific because it's cheaper just to know what, when you're looking at the chuck, what chucks, I'm that dude that's like flip, okay, flip, at the meat market, taking only the ones I want.
Right.
But
all right.
Good. That's why I say chuck's awesome.
Here's normally I promote a YouTube channel of a YouTuber, but they're normally not on the channel. But I invited Teresa here to be here because we were talking about the why, and I had watched a video of hers when she talked about the why. So I'm gonna show her page here if you guys haven't yet, and also check out Chad's page, The Minimalist Carnivore. But Teresa O, PhD coach, and like and subscribe. Like I tell people, being a YouTuber is really hard. It takes incredible amount of work. It has no pay. And I mean, basically we're doing this out of passion. So
Yeah.
the other thing is this, the message that you see here needs to be shared out. And if, all you have to do to get it liked by the algorithm is like and subscribe to YouTubers. And when videos come out, react, jump on it. The first 24 hours, YouTube's trying to decide what to do with that video. So if you see Chad put out a video or Teresa put out a video, jump on there, do a thumbs up and leave a comment. Say, hey, great video. And then watch it if you can, or just leave it on the side running while you're doing stuff, whatever. Don't turn the volume down because they don't count that. But it is important because, like I like to tell people, when I became a carnivore when I was actually looking for Jeep parts and how to put a part on my Jeep. And I just saw this crazy video with Dante Ferrigno, 126 days lion diet. And I'm like, what's this nonsense? And I watched it and I watched the whole thing and I was impressed. And I said, well, surely that was years ago. He can't still be on it. So I looked at his recent video and he looked better. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And that sent me down the rabbit hole with Dr. Berry and Dr. Chafee and all these Baker. So the point is, that video never would have been presented to me had someone not liked and subscribed to Dante Ferrigno. So the way you get in the game, you don't have to start a YouTube channel, which would be great if you did, but you don't have to. All you have to do is support us. Go and like and subscribe videos. And when you see videos come out, give them a thumbs up and give them a comment. So please go check out these content creators. They're here on their own time. You guys aren't getting paid by me, right?
No.
Okay, good, because I'm not paying you.
Something I thought, come on.
Yeah, I don't want to be famous. All I want to do is reach, even if it's just one person, because that's what happened to me. Stumbling on Dr. Berry's video was an absolute accident, but it completely changed my life. And that's what I want for everybody. I think everybody should feel good. Everybody should be healthy. You should not be on 1,000 pills. It doesn't have to be like that. So I want to be the accident that somebody stumbles on one of those videos and goes, hey, I want to try this, and then change their life. That's all I want.
Yep, me too.
True.
And Chad, thoughts?
It's why like I said, I've been doing this, carnivore for almost 4 years. Technically that lion thing for probably the last 2, and keto even before that. Oh, there's enough voices out there. There's enough of these people talking. Then I started thinking, I have something to share from looking back at it with this island mellow attitude and a perspective. And if somebody can relate, I mean, if you're former military, obviously carnivore soldier, you know what I mean? Teresa has her backgrounds, what she's done. Somebody could relate. Somebody could relate to me. Somebody can relate to, Dante, Dave, whoever all these people are, old guy carnivore, Mitch and stuff and his thing. Mm-hmm. It's like you've got all these people and all these different things. And it doesn't have to be like you only follow one. You can still follow everybody, but you might really resonate with somebody that has something and go, wow, okay, like I don't have a gallbladder. So that's kind of something unique. So there's always these little things to look for too, I think. And that's why I say, maybe get out of your comfort zone and just start a channel. That's kind of my thing, because it just might help somebody. You might realize, wow, people actually relate to me. And even if you just do it as a way to kind of put it out there, if you're okay with it, you'll be amazed at what other people like, oh, I always wondered if I was the only one that had that issue or something else. And that's an awesome feeling, helping people. Like I said, I think all of us, if we were doing this for money, we would have started like a money, like some kind of investing or a tech or something. You don't do it in the carnivore niche. That's not a...
No. Yeah. I mean, I have a career, and it's separate from this, and it makes good money. This is not now. You can support this channel, and this channel does cost money to run, and that's a different topic, right? So I do have like, you can join and support, or you can buy a T-shirt, or there's ways you can support. And that just makes it so this, this message gets out better, because I do pay for services to get this message out. And I think these guys do too. So saying that we don't do it for money is one thing, but we do appreciate and value support, and financially, and also the comments. I mean, when I wake up in the morning, I try to answer everyone's email and comment. And I still do that. I know there's a point where I'm not gonna be able to do that. But when I do, I tell you, it's the highlight of my day to see people's comments on videos or on posts, and even better is see other followers commenting and answering questions for other people. It's so cool. I mean, it's like this community is growing, and it's really fun to be part of. I know, Teresa, you've experienced that with Dr. Berry's community, and it's a huge community, I'm sure, but you've been with them for years, right? How's your experience been with that? I mean, what do you think's most rewarding about being a content creator or being a coach?
Exactly what you said. I encourage the people that watch to leave a comment about how ketovore, or carnivore has helped them and how they've healed, because I think people read the comments, and it's one thing if you're watching a video, but when you see other people comment down below, yes, this is true, or I experienced the same, and this, and this happened. And then it makes it more real, because it's not just somebody making something up. It's part of a bigger thing. So when everybody contributes to the comments, then that's very helpful. And it also makes me so happy. It's almost like it's what drives me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why even like when I taught scuba for 15 years, it wasn't for the money. I love the diving, but I love sharing that passion of diving with other people. And when you can share that with people, that's what's awesome, I think, in getting to know people.
This is shared experiences. There's a lot of value in that. I mean, as humans, we kind of cultivate that and crave it. I mean, that's why we go to movie theaters, to watch a movie with other strangers, to have that shared experience, right? It is. I mean, it's weird, but it's something very human about that. And that's part of our tribe, right? So we have and a lot of people talk about how great the carnivore community is. I agree 100%. This is as close to a brotherhood like the military or law enforcement that I've ever been in. And it's really interesting because, we all go through the same trenches in our own way, just like you do in the military, and we all pay the price in our own way, but we all get the benefit, and we all get the self-accomplishment, sense of accomplishment we get out of that. It's very awesome. I mean, and then of course supporting everybody. Everyone's picking everyone up and supporting them, like, hey, you got it, stick with it, it'll work. And it's just
I also use the analogy.
Go ahead.
Motorcyclist on the road.
Yeah, waving.
And you can be when I used to do racing, like, I'd be on, we always call them crotch rockets back then.
Yeah.
But, you could be on an import bike like that and kind of give the nod or the little, low hand salute to like a Harley dude, and he'd be the same way back.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. You're riding a bike. Doesn't matter. You're on carnivore. And that's, I think, where a lot of us carnivores too aren't. There's a few that are dogmatic. It's not like some of the other diets that get really dogmatic. Like we said, hey, I don't care if you do keto. Carnivore is a subset of keto, in my opinion. So it's also, we're not very we're going to take away your decoder ring because you had some almond flour. There's none of that.
That's
carnivore is a ketogenic diet. That's the fact.
Flat out.
It is.
It's a subset. That's what I say. It's a subset. Yeah. And that's why when people say, oh, I'm strict carnivore, and then they're having this fruit, veggie, and all this, I'm just like, just say you're keto, or just say you're keto. It doesn't matter, but it's still kind of like, I still kind of have that weird, like, who cares? You're all in the same thing. Yeah. But it just makes it easier for people to understand when they see it, so it's not confusing, is my thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey guys, we're coming up on an hour. I think we should probably wrap this up. Why don't you tell me what you have going on this week, if you have any plans for your channel? Chad, you want to start with that? What do you got going on this week? Any plans?
I'm so behind on getting out good long content. I put one little kind of thing out today on people have been asking what I eat during the day, but I got to start filming it better. But I hopefully have got some more time, so I'm going to put out some other content, coming up back to kind of my long content. Because I'm behind. I'm like 2 weeks in between each one, and I want to get out more. And I've got all these things, but just like I said, life with a 14 and 19-year-old and my other business, it's just hard to get it out. But I will be. So just keep there supporting. That's all I ask.
Teresa, you got anything going on this week?
Nothing concrete planned, but people have been requesting what I eat in a day, and also what I do for my fitness. So I haven't decided which one I'm going to make yet.
Cool. I have, I always get concepts, and then I get like this wild. Sometimes I wake up in the morning and just do a video because I'm like, all right, I just feel like talking like I'm having a cup of coffee with you, kind of thing, right? So I do that sometimes, but I do think about stuff like this Walmart video. Like I did that post of doing BBB&E for a budget. And then after talking to Semi-Tired Bob and finding out he does it for 120 to 130 a month, I'm like, well, this is fantastic. I got to do this. So I got to go into Walmart and do my video and kind of get some B-roll going and then kind of get work him into it. And it's going to be really cool, I think, because I think a lot of people get discouraged thinking how expensive it's going to be, right? But it doesn't have to be at all. It can be, in fact, even eating like I do, which is a lot of steaks, it's way cheaper than I was because I don't throw away food anymore. I don't buy ingredients. I don't buy sauces. I don't buy drinks. In fact, my garbage output, because I'm single, is a fraction of what it used to be. My garbage can is empty all the time now. And I take a bag out because they're coming, not because it's full. And it's crazy. But I used to have like bags of garbage, like 2 or 3 in there out of the kitchen. So if you don't like taking your garbage out, consider doing carnivore.
All right.
Yeah.
It's great.
I'm going to throw in one more thing. We're actually been Chuck from Break It Thin, Dave, Zero Carb, No Carb Life, Dave Mack. We've been doing this thing every other week on Carnivore Strong on Tuesdays at 5:30 Eastern, basically about just getting strong, getting in shape. And we didn't do like a month challenge. It's kind of like we're going to be there for a year, just sharing how we're doing it. So we're going to be doing lives and we're going to bring people on as guests and stuff too. So check that out on Tuesdays, 5:30 from, my channel, Dave's or Breaking Thin, basically just to get people involved. Just get them moving with intention. Like the carnivore diet is a lifelong thing. We started it to continue it. We want this health thing not to be a 1-month challenge and then on to something else. We're like, let's get people moving with intention, as we call it, even if it's just a 10, 15-minute walk every morning.
Yeah, that's great. I'm doing a lot of walks. I'm actually doing the 8,000 step challenge and I have to go out tonight because I've got like 3,000 more steps to do. So, but it's nice out, so I'm going to go enjoy it. All right, guys, I'm going to drop you guys out. If you wouldn't mind sticking around just for a minute, I'd like to talk to you when I'm done, but I'm going to say goodbye and sign off. All right. Thanks.
Take care, everybody.
Yep. Mahalo. All right, guys, that was a great discussion. Thanks for joining me on the Hump Day meetup, and look forward to seeing you guys next Wednesday. Until then, everyone stay strong and overcome. Carnivore Soldier out.